I'm James. I am 27 years old and I'm from the US. Lived there for most of my life, and then now I'm currently living in Albania.
My name is Martin. I'm 28. I'm from Bulgaria and I'm currently living in Germany, and to be more exact, Nuremberg.
My name's Cameron. I'm 24, from Brighton in England, and now living in Valencia, Spain.
And this is the Expat Show.
So, hi James. How are you? How are been things this week?
I'm good, Martin. In case the listeners and viewers can't tell, Cameron is no longer with us this week. He's in Madagascar. He's on vacation with his partner, his girlfriend, and from what we've seen on Facebook, looks like they're having a grand old time.
Yeah, and we're gonna have some struggle in making things sound as smooth as Cameron does.
Yeah, we don't have the gift of segues like Cameron does, so we'll try our best to connect things well. And also, if we kind of go way off topic, it's his fault for not moderating well enough from Madagascar.
I mean,
actually,
we cannot get these skills. I think they teach this in like kindergarten in England.
Yeah, probably. And you don't get his soft, soothing British accent either, which I would love to hear right now, but whatever. Speaking of which, actually, we have an update from Cameron from Madagascar that he sent us that we'll put in here real quickly right now.
Salama James and Martin from Madagascar. So, talking about making friends overseas, are we? I have a friend for you right here. This is, I'll come under the light so you can see it better. This is Harry the bird. Harry the bird. He's actually made out of a zebu horn, and a zebu is the cow. It's like basically a cow with horns, and it's got like a humpback. It's the national animal of Madagascar after the lemur. But yeah, talking about making friends overseas as well. I've been making some friends with the local children here. They love us. We're called Vasas, the foreign people. So that's quite nice to see when they come running up to you and want to like play with you and do silly hand games, things like that. But back in Spain, making friends there, it was mostly via work and Facebook groups. So I hope to see you guys soon, and we will be talking soon about something else, I'm sure. Adios.
All right, Cameron, that sounds fun. This is pre-recorded, so we don't actually know what you said, but sounds like you're having a good time, I hope.
We are definitely gonna talk more about Madagascar when he comes back.
Mm-hmm. How has adjusting back to life in Germany been after the wedding?
Oh, it's been crazy. So many reverse culture shocks back in Bulgaria as well as back in Germany. It's crazy.
Flip-flop back
also
and
having
forth.
in mind that I traveled through most of Eastern Europe.
Right.
Because
so
I drove with a car there.
And that took
And
how
I chose
long?
2 different routes,
Yikes.
first of all. Yeah. In total, I traveled 5 days with the car because we reached Greece for a really, really short honey week, so to say, not month.
Yeah.
So
you drove...
I think I passed through eight countries or something like that.
It sounds kind of fun, actually, if you can take your time through it. You know, it sounded like you were kind of trying to get through as quick as you could, but that to me doesn't sound quite as fun. But
I mean, we had a stop in Hungary, in Croatia, Greece, and of course Bulgaria.
Of course, Bulgaria. Always Bulgaria.
Yeah, but Hungary and Budapest are like one of my favorite places in Europe. So
oh, really?
If someone is looking for a place to go to visit as a tourist, there's no mistake in going to Budapest.
I'm always looking for a new place to go as a tourist, or maybe not a tourist. I'm always looking for new places to travel, and I've not been to Hungary yet, so Budapest will definitely be on my list, for sure. All right,
Yeah,
well...
Okay, so since we said Cameron is not here, and we need to moderate things, but sadly we cannot make the smooth transition. Today's topic is going to be making friends abroad. So James, I think you had an interesting story to tell on
Yeah,
this,
man,
like how you handle groups.
I'm just really, really missing Cameron's smoothness right now. I mean, I'm sitting there
Sorry,
like,
this
how
is
do
as much as
no,
I
it's-
can do.
It's not your fault. I would be the same way. I'm just like, man, he really helps move this thing along. We gave him the right role of this podcast.
In the end, he was the one that brought us together. So
That is true. That is true. He was the one that sent the Facebook messages. Yeah. So, well, I mean, it kind of relates, although kind of not. But as I've gotten older, I've found it harder and harder to be in large groups of people, and that's not like big crowds. You know, if I was at a concert, whatever, I'd be fine. But it's when large groups of people that all are kind of know each other, and it's like some sort of celebration where like you're kind of supposed to be interacting with everybody. Like I'm okay with interacting with a few people, and I'm okay with interacting with nobody. But when it's like, all right, everybody kind of all get together and everybody kind of interact a little bit with everybody else, that just makes me feel weird and a little uncomfortable. And that happened, 30 minutes ago, right before we started recording. Somebody was having a birthday celebration, and I knew everyone there, but I didn't feel comfortable actually sitting there because didn't know like who to interact with, when, and then also most people were they were all speaking Albanian, and like only if they were directing something to me would they speak English. And I know some, but I don't know enough of the language to be able to fully like get into
I don't
that.
want to admit this, but I was on the other side, on the Albanian side, when I was in Bulgaria. We had some foreigners, and we spoke a lot of Bulgarian, and only when we wanted to speak to them, we switched to English, which was... Now considering this as someone that's living in a country that doesn't speak the perfect like quality of the local language, it's pretty non-considerable from people to do that.
I mean, I can understand it, and I'm the last person to be like, hey, can you speak English for my sake? But it definitely does factor into whether I decide to go to certain things or attend certain things or not. Because I'm like, okay, do I want to go? I almost feel like I'm in an inconvenience for someone if I show up and I don't know Albanian, all of them can speak Albanian, and I'm just sitting there and maybe there's that one person who'll explain to me what's going on, or there's not, and I just get tidbits here and there of information. And so, like, I'm fine. I'm in their country. Like, I don't want to go to someone's country and be like, hey,
Actually,
speak the language I
found it
understand.
really cool. I went to this meeting. It was mostly students, Bulgarian students here in Germany. So at first we could only speak Bulgarian. It wasn't a problem. Then came this guy from China, I think. So basically he was the only one that wasn't speaking Bulgarian, but everyone switched to English because of him. So he doesn't feel left out.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. I would hate, like, I appreciate when people switch to English, but I am never going to say, hey, can you switch to English, because that's so self-centered. Anyway, all that to say, that's more of a language discussion. All of that to say, because it affects whether or not I choose to go to certain things or to spend time in groups of people, it does affect my, not ability to actually make friends, because I'm already friends with these people, but affects to a certain extent the ability to deepen relationships with people. So because if I don't go to this birthday party, they think, oh, he doesn't like going to things, and so we won't invite him when we do this, when there's just 2 of us or just 3 of us, because he doesn't like doing things, when that's not actually the case. So, and I don't know if that's happened or not, but by not being able to fully like mentally function in larger situations, I think I've suffered in that suffered, quote unquote, suffered in that it's harder to really.
So have you actually like made friends in Albania?
Yeah, I have, and I have a number of good friends. But I just feel like anytime. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like by not.
I mean, they're
not
also
wanting to
Albanian,
attend,
right?
Yes. Well, yes.
They're not foreigners.
I have Albanian friends. I also have friends that have moved to Albania from elsewhere. But it's the inability to fully function in larger groups, I think, affects how often I hear about or know about smaller groups, and which is what would allow me to deepen friendships with people.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of understand it because, for example, here in Germany, it's really common to like have small talk with people, especially in the office, and this is something I really, really hate. This is for me, it's just a waste of time, and this is kind of like shortening my options to even not even friendship, just to like to get to know people, because they always start with a small talk, and I cannot hide it. Like you can read my emotions really well from my face. So basically, I looked bored during the entire time.
Right. And I mean, that is why I like podcasting, because we have an allotted time at the beginning of each episode for small talk, but ultimately we just lop it off and we're like, yeah.
No, this is actually not small talk.
I think
considered like from the German perspective. This is like things that
I mean
friends
the
will
stuff that we
discuss. Small talk. They talk about the weather. They talk about the air conditioning in the office and stuff like that, and it's kind of annoying.
Yeah. Yeah, but I view the first few minutes of our episodes kind of in that regard. But then also it's like we don't have the same similarities as everyone in the same office would. And so it does change that. And I think that also has helped in the friendship between the three of us, because we just launch into these big topics of discussion. And like, I don't know if I've ever had like just a casual conversation with either of you just about the weather or about a sport team or whatever, because it's just like we have these bigger visions of what we're doing and deeper things to talk about, which I prefer.
Me also.
But that's not talking about friends.
Yeah, I do find it weird for me personally in Germany that it's easier to connect with foreigners, especially from the Balkans, considering that, I mean, you're pretty aware now with the situations in the Balkans, like everyone hates everyone.
Yeah.
Which is the opposite here. I've seen more good from neighboring countries here than I've seen from Bulgarians. Like from Romanians, from Turkish people and stuff like that, which typically have bad history with Bulgaria.
Right, of course. Yeah, I mean, the organization that I work at is an international organization, so there are a number of Germans that come through, and we have a university associated with it here as well. So I have a number of friends that are from all around the world. I mean, I know some people from Cuba. There are some guys from, Uganda.
That's pretty.
South Sudan. There's some people from Tanzania that I know, and then there's kind of Americans. A family that is originally Zimbabwean, but then they spent 20 years in the U.S. before coming here. So the kids that I interact with are more American, and then the parents are kind of American, but then also mostly Zimbabwean sort of stuff.
That's really international.
And so
like
it's very, very international. And so then I do have Albanian friends, but I wouldn't say that I have more Albanian friends than international friends here, which does make it easier because then English becomes the common language between everyone. And so then I'm not the only one that's left out of that. But yeah, I definitely have Albanian friends that live locally, that I've made since I got here.
So I found it that pretty much Germans are reserved against foreigners, and the only Germans that are like open are people that were introduced in one way or another to foreigners and saw that they're not that bad. Let's say one of their relatives married someone from abroad or something like that, or they had to work with someone. Right. Those people are usually more open, I have this Romanian friend. She has a boyfriend. He's German, and to be honest, I'm not sure if we would have struck any friendship with him if it wasn't for her initially, because I met with him through her. and they both become so close that they got invited to the wedding as well. So you can imagine just
that's cool.
for 3 years how close we got.
Right.
Which typically for normal Germans, it's I think it's pretty much impossible. They like to, as far as I heard, because I haven't taken the normal route in making friendships here in Germany. They take a really, really long time before they call you a friend or something like that.
Right. So what route have you taken to finding friends in Germany? Since you said you haven't taken the normal one, what route have you taken?
Basically interact with people that have some connections with foreigners already. You can actually see them because they're really open. They even sometimes strike conversations directly with you. The other ones just try to avoid you as soon as they learn you're a foreigner. I mean, there are some cool Germans as well. They do struggle with English, for example, but they try to make small talk with you.
Right.
But for example, at one of the jobs I had, there was this dude. He just started chatting about football matches, and he did it in German, but he saw that I struggled with the language. Even though he kept it slow, he explained, and whenever I didn't understand something, he tried to explain it in English. But he was already introduced to foreigners because I think his sister was married to a guy from England.
Okay. Yeah, so he's already had that experience with someone that's not German.
Yeah.
Have you developed any friendships with people that you work with, or were most of your friendships coming from people that you work with?
Actually, they're both Romanian and German were ex-colleagues of mine. So we met at work.
Right.
Actually, it's a really interesting story because I moved and I had my birthday like 20 days after I moved here. So I was pretty much alone on my birthday, and she decided to bring me Star Wars cupcakes for my birthday.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's super nice.
I mean, that's one of the coolest thing about foreigners as well, because at some point they were in your shoes, so it's easier to find common ground with them.
Right. They're gonna know how you feel in, like being fresh in a new country and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Usually, sometimes, if you go somewhere, like if you're moving with someone who's been there, or you're moving to be with someone who lives there, then it might be different. But if you're kind of moving there completely unconnected with what's happening there, not what's happening, but unconnected with any people, then someone who's a different expat might be more likely to be able to connect you with things and connect with you on certain levels of things. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I think at least in Germany, that's the only approach you can go for, is to first interact with foreigners, and if they have some connections to Germans, that's how you expand your network. But in like everyday life,
for me, I don't know.
Sorry for interrupting. In everyday life, like,
no, go for it.
I
Finish.
mostly interact with either Bulgarians or other foreigners.
Right. I don't know for me if my route of being an expat is similar or dissimilar to most people. But the fact that I already had a job set up before I got here with people that I knew a little bit, but then there was an American couple that lived here that were former colleagues of my dad's back in the day when I was growing up, and having that especially helped me, like, okay, I know, like, there's these familiar people there, and I'm not completely alone. But then I go and I get thrown into this job, and I'm with these people, these other people every single day, and it's just like, yeah, we become friends just by being together all the time. And I don't know if that's normal for most people or not. I don't know if people usually become expats after they've gotten jobs, or decide to go be an expat and then get a job once they go.
Nowadays it's 50-50.
Yeah, it probably varies. And so I can imagine it's much more difficult to meet people and make friends if you're moving without having a job. Because at the very base level, you can show up and you see people every day, and maybe you don't hang out with them outside of work, but there's this like commonality of like every day when you get up and you go to work, or however often you go to work, you're seeing familiar people, and so you'll naturally have inside jokes with them. You'll be able to like, you know, have better, deeper conversations with people. I mean, both of us have created friendships initially based at work, and then actually most of the people that I'm friends with here are somehow connected to my job, be it coworkers or people that are like students of the university or whatever. A lot of them are somehow connected, and part of that is it's because it's just a small city, and so everyone somehow is connected to the organization that I work at.
Would you say that the Albanians are warmer than other cultures that you experienced in Europe?
Yes. Albanians are very welcoming, very, very welcoming, very generous, very hospitable. It's part of their culture to just be showing hospitality to guests, to people. Now that's definitely like the very first interaction with Albanians is going to be very hospitable, very welcoming. Now, I don't really I haven't thought about it, but it's possible that that's sort of, I don't want to say superficial, but like that only goes so far, you know, where it's like, oh, I'll give you, well, a good example is buying coffee. You know, if you go out with an Albanian for the very first time, they're generally going to offer to buy the coffee. But then obviously they're not going to do that every single time you go out. It's kind of expected there's a back and forth. Well, if you, like, I've visited other cities, and when I go there, the people are like, no, like, I'm paying for everything because you came to visit my city. You're my guest. But if I move there, they're not going to be like, I'm going to pay for everything because you moved to my city, because that's ridiculous. So I don't know where that level is of like, you're a guest. We're going to welcome you with our hospitality.
I think that's pretty like
and then
the same throughout the Balkans. So
yeah, it seems like it.
Like if you see each other once or twice a year, people will be really welcoming, and they would like say pay for stuff and whatever, which was weird. You asked me about how was coping with the differences from Germany and Bulgaria. This was one of the things I was really shocked when I went to Bulgaria. A lot of my friends didn't allow me to pay for coffee or something like that, and I was like, dude, I work in Germany. I make more money.
Yeah,
like I should pay the bill.
More money. Than,
but
yeah,
they were like,
you're the one that actually can pay it. Yeah. So, like, that initial interaction with Albanians is very welcoming, very generous, and then there's a point where, so I don't know. Again, part of this stems from the South in the U.S. You know, Alabama, Georgia, Mississippi, Tennessee, that area is known for their like Southern hospitality, as they would call it. But in my experience, more often than not, that is superficial. That's, hey, come, you're welcome at my house anytime, you know? And then you show up at their house and they're like, what are you doing here?
I think that's
you know?
with most people.
And right, but like, you know, there's almost this fakeness to it's like, oh, we just say that we say people are welcome anytime or whatever, or you act like you're hospitable until you actually have a chance to be welcoming, and then you're like, oh, actually, never mind, that doesn't fit with my schedule or doesn't fit with what I want to do, so I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, sounds like in Germany pretty much.
And so I don't know how, like, Albanian hospitality is definitely more than that. And so creating friendships with people is like, that first time you hang out, the first few times you hang out, everyone's super nice and happy and whatever, but you don't know if that's like them actually wanting to be friends with you or them just like completing what's expected of them in their culture of hospitality. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
So,
but what's weird, for example, for me is in Bulgaria, it takes 1 or 2 months for you to get to know all your neighbors inside a building with flats, let's say like 5-6 stories. It takes a couple of months to get to know people. For example, here in Germany, I get like got introduced to the neighbor living on the right side of my apartment after 2 years because she came to complain that my music was too loud.
You should, when you move to a new place, you should just always have your music loud so you can meet all your neighbors.
That's another topic here in Germany. They don't. They rarely go and complain directly to you because they have this organizations where
They complain to
you file a complaint
to the super or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense.
and they can kick
That's
you
how
out
it is
of
in
your
the US
apartment and
usually.
everything. They try to minimize human interaction as much as possible here in Germany. They don't like it.
Yeah. But so going back to making friends from work, the interesting thing is that I see these people every day at work and I'll run into them in the city and stuff, but it's very limited in how much time I spend with some of them outside of work. Now, I do spend time with some of them outside of work, and I don't know if it's me or if it's just how things are here, but I rarely am hanging out with other people when I'm not at work. So I go home. Part of it is me because I want to go home and be able to like recharge by myself. But then like this last weekend, I didn't do anything all weekend. I was in my apartment most of the weekend cleaning or whatever. And at the end of the weekend, I was like, I haven't had a conversation with somebody since I left work on Friday. Promise my weekend starts on Friday, not on Wednesday,
Yeah,
in case my boss is listening.
Yeah, let's hope it's not.
And so,
I actually had
Yeah, it's just interesting.
quite a lot of those weekends here as well in Germany, especially in the beginning because I came alone to set up things so my wife can move and feel comfortable.
right.
So I had like months in which every weekend I just spent alone at home, locked away.
Right, but there's a difference here because I know if I left my apartment and walked along the lake, I probably would see someone that I know, and all they would be doing is going out for a walk and get a coffee. So most of the time, if I leave my apartment and actually go for a walk on the lake, I'll run into somebody and they're like, "Oh, let's go get a coffee," or "Let's go get food," or "Let's go do this."
Yeah, this is
and
also
so then that's
a
where
difference in the
that's
box
where
of
the
here.
hanging out comes from.
Yeah, they hang out. They go for coffees. They go for walks. Here in Germany.
Well, see,
Yeah, here in Germany, I think that you have to plan some kind of an event to go out with Germans.
well, okay, in the U.S., it's planning because you're not going to just happen to run into somebody. So here, maybe you don't have to do as much in small towns. But even when I grew up in a town of 20,000 people, like I would be planning, I wouldn't just happen to run into my friends. I would text them and we'd be like, okay, let's go here, let's do this, let's eat here. Here in Albania, and specifically in this city in Albania, I don't get texts saying, hey, let's go to a coffee, hey, let's go get dinner, hey, let's go hang out. There's either a plan for a bunch of people to get dinner, or you're just happen to be walking down somewhere and you see someone and they're like, hey, what are you doing right now? You want to go grab food? Whereas on the flip side of that, in the U.S., you know, where I was living in Alabama, I wouldn't see people unless I texted them and said, hey, or called them or whatever, and we're like, hey, let's go do something, or let's go come over to my house, or go to your house, or whatever.
Yeah,
like
this
I
feels
wouldn't
like
just
Germany.
run into people. Yeah, it feels it's much more like how you describe Germany, where you don't just like casually just find someone and decide, oh, hey, let's hang out tonight.
Also, the difference is, at least here in Nuremberg, there are not a lot of cafes available in the neighborhoods. Like in
Oh
Bulgaria,
yeah, okay,
especially
that makes
Sofia,
sense.
like you cannot go more than 500 meters without having a cafe where you can just sit and chill with friends or something like that. Here I have to go to the center because most of them are there. Of course, there are some in the neighborhoods, but they're like sort of bakery / cafe, which closes at 6 p.m. So,
Right.
yeah.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense, and that's it's similar to how things are in Albania, where there's always another cafe, just right around the corner. But yeah, it's taken some getting used to, because in the U.S. I won't leave unless I have somewhere to go, but here I won't have something to do unless I leave without somewhere to go. Really, you know, I have to leave my house without having anything going on to be able to find someone to be able to hang out with them. Usually. Sometimes there's a...
What I miss from Bulgaria is calling someone and saying, what are you doing? And when the answer is nothing, you say like, let's meet at this cafe in 15 minutes.
Right. And that's how things would be in the US. That's not how I've experienced things here. I'm sure it happens. It's not how I've experienced them.
Here in Germany, you have to plan like just going for coffee or something with your calendar because it's gonna happen in 2 weeks.
Right. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I think we covered most of the problems and the solutions we found in making friends in Albania and Germany.
yeah, I mean,
We'll definitely ask Cameron about Spain because Spanish people are famous for how warm they are as people.
yeah, that's true. And it helps that his girlfriend is Spanish. And so,
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if it helps. It might help that his girlfriend is Spanish. You know?
From what I've experienced in half an year in Spain, it will help definitely.
It would help.
It takes just one Spanish person to introduce you to like 20, which will introduce you to a lot more.
Yeah.
It's a domino effect there.
Interesting. So I had a question and I don't remember what I was going to say. Oh, what are some, in your mind, what are just some like simple tweet like tips that you could give someone if they're trying to find friends, trying to make friends in Germany?
First of all, look up your local foreigner groups, expat groups. They have meets. Go join them, talk with them. In the beginning, I was lucky enough to have people that know people in Nuremberg, Bulgarians.
Right.
And I got introduced through them, and they brought me to some group gatherings and. Yeah.
Right. Look in local expat groups. That's a good one. Yeah. I mean, one of my friends here who ended up being connected because of the university that I work with. But I met him through another person that I met and ended up just like, he worked at a photo studio. So I would just walk into the photo studio every once in a while and be like, hey, what's up? What are you working on? What are you editing? What photos are you taking? That sort of stuff. So if you find someone with common interests and kind of almost unobtrusively insert yourself into certain parts of what they're doing, you can
Speaking about this, I actually
potentially develop a
found
friendship.
a YouTube community here in Nuremberg.
Oh, really?
And it's made up most of Germans though, and I think in 2 weeks is their first meet, so we're gonna see how that goes.
Yeah, that's cool. That'll be interesting. I've met a few people here that make YouTube videos, but not the same kind of videos that I make. You know, they go for more of the...
Usually that's my problem as well.
Yeah, usually people here go for... And there are ways to like, you know, if you're making similar enough stuff, but people... And I could make it work, but you know, the guys that I've met are making... okay, with the exception of a few, the guys that I met are making like short film type things, like cinematic type things, not like big production short films, like with their friends short films. And I'm like, I want one person, I want someone who's like, okay, this is me, this is my channel, this is what I'm doing, you know, and be able to interact with them, and you know, share ideas and help with other videos. And there are a couple guys that I know that do that, but they don't live in my city, they live a couple hours away.
To be fair, it is possible. For example, like my collaboration with Jonas, we met on the No Smoke Creator group as well with him. He was mostly into cinematics and like super daily vlogs,
Right.
which I strive away from the daily vlog stuff. But we did make it work, and it was maybe one of my most fun experience making YouTube videos ever. We filmed the entire day. We had in total like 7 or 8 different cameras, and we produced amazing footage. So by the way, if anyone's interested, you can check out. There are 2 videos on my channel and a link to the one on Jonas's channel.
Just quickly back to inserting yourself into other people, unobtrusively inserting yourself into other people's lives. One of my friends in Alabama, I didn't really know him. I played basketball with him a few times. And I worked in the gym that we would play basketball. So I would play and I would go down to the locker room, I'd shower, and I'd go to my office. And he would usually stay in the gym and shoot or practice for a few hours afterwards or something, or he would come and lift weights. And one day I was sitting in my office just working on the computer, and this guy that I had talked to just a few times, mostly because we were two of the only white guys that were playing basketball in this gym, so we would just talk to each other. We talked to the other guys too, but it was like ended up us gravitating towards each other.
Hashtag say no to racism.
But we would sit, or I was sitting working, and he walks in and just sits down in the chair in my office and just starts chatting. And it was super awkward at first. I was like, I don't really know you. What are you doing? Who are you? And that ended with us talking for like 2 hours. And then he's like, I'm hungry. You want to go get some lunch? And I was like, yeah, sure. It's lunch break. Let's go get some lunch. And then after work, I left lunch and he was like, hey, come hang out. Come watch a movie after work. Okay. So after work, like I went to his house and watched a movie with him and his roommate. And it started this friendship between me and both of them. But it was literally just because he was like extroverted and like that he was confident enough that he just came and sat down in my office. Similar to how I just consistently walk into this guy's photo studio and I'm like, hey, what's up? You know, let's chat, you know? And we don't hang out often, but I know that like I can go in there and it's not going to be weird if I go in there. The other people sometimes, like their new hires, look at me and they're like, who is this guy? But you know, for the most part, it's...
Yeah, definitely. I try to avoid awkward situations, which usually happen if I try to act extroverted here in Germany. Like, I can see that people are uncomfortable around
right, and that's why
situations.
And that's why I say unobtrusively, but also just because someone...
I'm not sure whether it's because I act extrovertedly or because I try to make them speak in English.
Yeah, it could be a bit of both. But also, like that, all of it isn't necessarily. Oh man, I just completely forgot what I was going to say. So, oh right,
Yeah.
Them being all Cameron's not here to smooth things over, in case anyone forgot.
Yeah. Speaking about Cameron, I'm pretty sure I can hear him from Madagascar telling us that we are almost out of time from today's episode.
That's very true. We should cut it short, or not cut it short. We should wrap it up. That's the word that I'm thinking of. But just quickly before we end, just because someone feels awkward doesn't necessarily mean that, or uncomfortable, doesn't necessarily mean that they didn't enjoy the interaction. You know, sometimes it does. But like I said, it was really strange for Colin to walk in and sit down in my office. And I was uncomfortable because I didn't really know him, but it ended up being fine. You know, as long as it's not like, again, as long as it's not unobtrusive, it's not like he followed me into my house or something. Like, it was my office. It was like I had an open door. Anyone from the gym could have walked in and sat down. I would have talked to them. Like, it was fine. It just happened to be him, and we happened to hit it off on a good note. And so I'm sure there are ways that people can find to you know, in my mind, it's like if you see people playing football or soccer, depending on where you're listening, if you're seeing people play football, like go and ask if you can play, because that could develop. Like if you're interested, go and ask if you can play with them, because that could develop some friendships. Like that's unobtrusively inserting yourself into someone else's, you know, life.
Just another example of how close things are here in Germany. There is no such thing as just people playing football. Here you have to join an amateur club in order to play.
Nobody plays just
like
pickup?
that. No, there are places where you can pay to play like just one game, but you need to gather the people up front so you can book a field and go there. So
Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
Another way not to meet people.
So basically, this whole episode, I've learned that it's impossible to make friends in Germany.
It is, if you're not keen on making only German friends.
Yeah, well, that's a negative
Actually,
way
there
to
are
end
like
the podcast.
No, actually, from 80 million people here in Germany, around 30 million are foreigners. So that's quite a lot.
Yeah, that is a lot. But yeah, I mean, if anyone listening or watching has any other ideas or stories about how they've made friends while living as an expat, let us know on our at our email, the Expat Show at mail.com. On our Facebook. We recently got a specific username for our Facebook. What's our Facebook now, Martin?
The Expat Show Podcast.
Right. Facebook.com/The Expat Show Podcast. Or you can find either of us, or I guess we'll put Cameron's link in this description also. But
Cameron as well, of course.
our YouTube links will be in the description. You can find me on social media anywhere. James Leithart, Leithart.
Or Martin Ivanov, or Marto Ivanov 91, because some of the places Martin Ivanov was taken.
Yeah. Problems with having a common name, I guess.
Yeah.
All right.
Just a quick summary of the tips. Be extroverted but not too intrusive. Try to find common interests. Be open to making friendships with people who are not only locals. And yeah, I think the best place to do it is at work.
Yeah, look for friends that you're already interacting with on a daily basis. Try to develop relationships with people that are that you're already seeing on a consistent basis, because those are going to be the easiest ones to kind of work your way into that. Hopefully they're up for it as well, but you never know. All right,
Yeah.
This is a good episode, Martin, and we'll see everyone next week, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. Hopefully we'll have a guest, I guess, next week.
That's the hope. So come back to find out who it is, or if we were even able to convince anyone to come talk to us for an hour.
Yeah, in order to do that, don't forget to subscribe, hit bell icons, follow the podcast on whatever platform you're listening on, and see you next week.
Yeah, in memory of Cameron, ciao for now.
Adios, amigos.